RTS games enjoyed massive attention back during its heyday, where the Titans reigned supreme. Then there are those unsung titles that slipped between the cracks, which are still worth mentioning today. Welcome to Asjenko's list of top 5 classic real-time strategy games that deserve more attention. The idea of a tale stretching all the way through the ages of human development is a compelling one. In our short time on this planet, we've built wonders of architecture, but we're also responsible for the many horrors of warfare that's joined by a boom in progress. So the concept behind the game of Empire Earth makes a lot of sense. For a game all about expanding and competing, probably the biggest battle Empire Earth had to face was against its most obvious of competitors. When the mega hit Age of Empires dawned on the world in 1997, it reshaped the imagination of gamers in just what possibilities real-time strategy games could offer. It was a game rooted in advancements as much in its premise as it was in the way it helped to evolve the genre. By the time Empire Earth launched in 2001, the renowned Age of Empires 2 had already been out for over 2 years, having taken everything from the first game and had greatly improved upon it. The Age of Empires brand had become a juggernaut, which certainly didn't make for an easy giant to compete with. Yet against all odds, Empire Earth burst out of the gate cannons blazing. This makes even more sense when you consider that the very lead designer behind Age of Empires had left Ensemble Studios after its release to become a founder of Stainless Steel Studios. In a way, with both AoE and Empire Earth having the same lead made the two games less competition and more a branch evolution in the same genre. The charm of these franchises is how you progress through the milestones of human history. While each Age of Empires title allows you to grow through 4 historical periods, collectively taking you from the Stone Age through to the Imperial Age that captured the Renaissance period, Empire Earth endeavored to take things even further. Throughout Empire Earth, you'll trek through a total of 15 epochs, from the distant cave-dwelling times right up until the modern computing era. But it doesn't even stop there. The final epochs even stretch a few hundred years into the speculative science fiction ages of futuristic human societies. Here you can delve into nanotechnology as well as the space age in the Art of Conquest expansion. During your time in Empire Earth, you'll find a glut of content from its 4 campaigns right through to open-ended scenarios and exciting PvP battles. It's sad to see how the franchise fell apart with the failure of its 3rd title, as it proved very unpopular with almost anyone who played it. Even so, the original game can still be experienced today, giving players a chance to explore a truly solid RTS title. It's always refreshing to see developers take on a popular concept as a premise and mix in some thematically unique ideas to offer up something new to a genre. This was exactly the course of events that brought us the brilliant Battle Realms in the early 2000s. The formation of Liquid Entertainment came with the goal of bringing the joy of gaming to as many gamers as possible. So for their first project, they dove straight into the RTS genre with a game that wore its inspirations like a badge of honor. As gamers who'd enjoyed countless hours of Dungeons & Dragons, a fantasy environment was a clear choice for them. Mix in their love for films from the East, and so Battle Realms was born. The art style is vivid and thematic. You can feel the developers' love for the old Eastern mythologies seep right through into the core of the title. The world they've crafted in Battle Realms comes with a decent amount of lore and heaps of world building. On the great island where the game takes place, an uneasy coexistence exists amongst the clans who clash in ideologies and beliefs. This inevitably leads to conflict as they clash in epic warfare. As strong as the world and art is, it's in the gameplay where Battle Realms truly makes it stand. Like any RTS, your economy revolves around resource gathering and building up your base. You'll find rice and water as your primary resources, both of which you'll be able to harvest with your peasants. At least you don't have to worry about spending on these guys, as they're automatically generated at a peasant hut. Here is where the twist comes in though. Peasants are used to collect water and rice, with which you'll construct buildings and troops. But they'll also water the rice fields to keep things going. On top of that, your buildings won't outright train units. Instead, your peasants will need to be sent to different structures to train into your fighting force. This makes for some strategic choices into how you manage your units and a balancing act between peasants and troops. Liquid Entertainment went on to release a few more RTS titles, but unfortunately these didn't quite shake up the market at the time. Where Liquid's greatest success lies though was in their first creation. There's even a Battle Realms remaster currently working its way through early access. Called the Zen Edition, mostly the focus is on getting multiplayer and the game working perfectly on contemporary systems, but for all purposes it's a fully working game at present. It's a real treat to see a shining gem from days past making a comeback. While Liquid Entertainment has faded from memory and most of their titles fell to the wayside, thanks to remasters like the Battle Realms Zen Edition, gamers today have a chance to play a great RTS title that shouldn't be forgotten. It doesn't happen often where a developer takes a central theme of a title and completely reshuffle things in a follow-up, as it might alienate its fan base. For instance, going from a far-future science fiction saga to a medieval fantasy world might seem risky, but this is exactly the chance Cavedog Entertainment took with their late 90s offering of Total Annihilation Kingdoms. Not being a true sequel or prequel, it's interesting to note that Cavedog set their second Total Annihilation game in a completely different universe. Gone are the mechanized waves of armored warriors, and instead you follow great and powerful monarchs set to conquer lands with mythical beasts and mighty spells at their disposal. A fact that immediately leaps out in Kingdoms is the 4 factions themselves, with the 5th being added in the Iron Plague expansion. These elementally inspired factions are all completely distinct from one another and equally fun to play in their own manner. The story told in Kingdoms also leaned towards a more grounded tale, in a way. While there is plenty of fantastic elements to find here, the story takes on the rivalry of 4 siblings who vie for the monarchy in the absence of their father. It's a sweeping tale told over many missions as you switch perspectives throughout their conquests. Here you'll find another of Kingdom's unique aspects. The missions will jump between the 4 factions, which brought an interesting dynamic to the tale. For instance, in one mission you might be bolstering the forces of Taros, and in the next you'll retaliate against Taros as Aramon. It makes for a fun and interesting way of storytelling, as I never felt bound to just merely one side, but rather an ever-flowing storyline. The missions constantly hand out new toys to try out, and the flow of each map feels consistent. You build lodestones that'll give you a constant stream of mana with which you summon your armies. While each faction feels familiar, they also feel distinct with their own unique flavors to play around with. On the one hand you have Total Annihilation with its bombastic warfare that dealt with far-off futuristic themes. On the other end of that you'll find Kingdoms offer a variety of fun gameplay mechanics within a realm of high fantasy. While the former title is more fondly remembered, even spawning a beloved spiritual successor, Total Annihilation Kingdom still stands strong on its own merits and definitely deserves to be played to this day. It's always a pleasure to see a game based on a big property enter the market and actually prove to be a competent creation. As an avid RTS fan, this was exactly my experience when I got my hands on Star Trek Armada, as it blew me away from the get-go. Now, it needs to be said, young as Jenko couldn't be called a true-blooded Trekkie in its purest form. I have dabbled in the Next Generation when it was on television, and I watched a healthy dose of Voyager, and even though I really enjoyed my time with both of these shows, no true Trekkie would ever consider me one of their own. What I am though is a fan of strategy games, and Armada was one I fondly remember having played through on multiple occasions. It obviously goes without saying that there's a particular craft to making games, and it gets real tricky to get a gamer to respond to the feel of a game the exact way a developer intends. So I can just imagine the challenge when it comes to making a game based off of established material. This is something as a casual observer of the Star Trek universe that impressed me about Armada. The game's got that look of the show, and it just made me want to watch a few episodes of Picard outwitting the Borg. What adds a great deal to this is the sound and music, a point that Armada definitely doesn't disappoint on. There are all the iconic ship and weapon sounds, and the music captures the feel, but the devs took it to the next level. A number of casts from the Star Trek universe are present here to give the characters the gravitas and talent that only they can provide. With even the likes of Patrick Stewart and Michael Dorn, you know the game is going to bring that required authenticity. Campaign focuses on 4 major factions and brings all the sci-fi goodness of time travel and galaxy-wide threats. The story stays engaging and the missions throw some twists and turns to the objectives. What makes the gameplay stand out though is each faction's special weaponry. The different ships have their own abilities, where some can even come with up to 4 that they can employ. These prove really destructive and fun to tinker around with, especially when you consider ship crews can be killed off, which is perfect for boarding parties, while even ship functions can be targeted individually. When it comes to big name properties out there, adapting something proves surprisingly hard. Then there are some adaptations that just make perfect sense. Star Trek and strategy games just come together in that perfect sort of union. It's sad to see there were only 2 titles in the Star Trek Armada series, but the titles we got were so good and are still worth checking out today. We end things off with a personal favourite of mine. It's a title that stood as a milestone for me against which I measured so many games over the years. The moment I played Homeworld Emergence, it was love at first sight. If you're more old school like me, then the title probably confuses you a bit. Many of you'd remember a game called Homeworld Cataclysm released way back and probably wonder what's this new name all about. This comes due to an apparent trademark dispute, and so when the game was relaunched on the good old games platform, it was under this new title. Name change or not, at its core, Emergence still offers up the same great experience. The game was actually not a product of Relic Entertainment, who brought us the first title as well as its sequel, but instead it was developed by Barking Dog Studios. Oddly enough, this studio would eventually become Rockstar Vancouver, who would go on to release Bully in 2006. As far as Emergence goes, for me the plot is something that stands out. I love how it captures the same beats of the original, where you follow the underdogs fighting against overwhelming odds, only framed in a bit of a different way here. Here you follow Kiev Somtal, one of the smaller mining clans, as they unwittingly unleash a techno-organic virus called the Beast. The strange entity is menacing, frighteningly so, as I remember as a kid it had spooked the hell out of me. Coming off of the phenomenal first game, Barking Dog chose not to add a whole lot, but instead streamlining many features. The speed up mechanic was an exceptional quality of life addition, while ship upgrades and being able to issue commands from the sensor manager helped add a whole lot more depth to gameplay. This was Cataclysm's greatest strength. What a good expansion should do. Take everything that works and fine tune it. Adding a Homeworld title to a list of games that deserve more attention probably seems strange, since we recently had a remaster of the first two games as well as a third title in the series. This is the sad part of it though. Cataclysm was a solid entry into the Homeworld canon, and yet it wasn't part of Gearbox Software's remaster as its source code has reportedly been lost. Luckily the older version is still available to play today. On the one hand, it's great to see how the Homeworld franchise is over 2 decades old and still thriving. It just adds to the sadness how an exceptional title such as Cataclysm has become lost over the years. Especially with a new name, many probably don't know that it's the same game. Even so, call it Homeworld Cataclysm or Emergence, it's still a brilliant game that deserves to be revisited. And this brings us to the end of this list of 5 classic real-time strategy games that are not as well remembered as they deserve to be. These are just my picks though. Are there any RTS titles that you fondly remember and you want to shed some more light on? Comment down below and maybe you'll give myself and others some new titles to check out. Like the video to show the channel your support and subscribe for more top 5 videos as well as classic and indie gameplay and recommended titles worth playing. Thank you for watching, keep on gaming and I'll see you in the next one.